Good morning, gamers. Welcome back to the GM Academy in the Game Shop's basement with your host, the Grumpy Old GM. Today's video is a video that I promised to YouTube user Grim Goblin, regular listener whom I recognize the name from a few different comments on our channel here at YouTube. So thank you, Grim Goblin. Mr. Goblin, can I call you Mr. Goblin? Anyway, or maybe just Grim. But Grim Goblin asked about Mickey the Beholder. So today we're doing NPC Rolodex entry number 8. So yeah, we're up to 8 of these things now. I will make sure that it gets onto the playlist of NPC Rolodex entries. It's for easy, organizational listening and stuff, because people asked me to create more playlists for organize the videos. Now, recently, I got to talk with the original Dungeon Master who came up with Mickey the Beholder back in the 80s. One of the reasons why this came up here on the channel recently is I was talking about Mickey the Beholder. Actually, there were some players on another channel, one of those channels that's kind of Jerry Springer-ish, because it's like horror stories of DMing or something. And some people were actually complaining about my DMing, thinking that this Beholder was like contrived. No, that Beholder's been there since the 80s. I'm about to tell you his story, why there would be a Beholder there. And also, there was a YouTube commenter who said, "Oh, you're going against the lore," and he's trying to quote 5th edition Monster Manual at me like it's the Bible or something, chapter and verse or whatever. And I read about Beholders in 1st edition, and there's a Beholder who ran a bar in Waterdeep in 1st edition. And anyway, the point. Anyway, don't want to digress too much, but if you listen to the channel, you may have recently learned that I just a few weeks ago had my 52nd birthday, and it was a very special birthday because I got to see someone I hadn't seen in literally 20 years. It's 2023 now, hadn't seen him since 2003. And I figured out, that my wife was asking me about how long it had been, and I figured out I don't think I'd even been on the phone with him since 2004. So hadn't seen him in 20 years, hadn't been on the phone with him in 19 years until recently. And if you want to, so he's the guy that taught me how to DM. I've talked about him a lot on this channel. He's kind of my mentor when I was a kid for DMing and a lot of other things. And the story of how he and I met is on a previous video called The Junior Magic User and the Frost Giant, if you want to look at that. But so I got the full story of Mickey the Beholder because I sort of inherited. We had round robining campaigns. I've talked about round robining before. That is the most popular video on this channel so far, is the video about round robining, and how that is the healthiest thing that you can do for your table, and to help people understand what it even means to be a GM and respect the GM, all that kind of stuff. That's another topic, but we're going to talk about Mickey today. So story time, Mickey the Beholder. So once upon a time, there was a Beholder who was born. Wasn't a space beholder, wasn't one of those Spelljammer type beholders from a hive like that or anything, but it was a terrestrial type beholder from a regular D&D planet type world. But even so, beholders are kind of, according to the lore, beholders are, the official published lore. Beholders are very, speciesist, subspeciesist, racist, whatever. Beholders are obsessed in kind of a Hitler-like way with this physical perfection. And if you don't conform, if you're a beholder and you don't conform to this physical perfection ideal, then you are just, killed or cast out. Well, Mickey the Beholder was born with what we might call in real life, for real life animals, he was born with nest eye. I haven't mentioned it a whole lot on this channel, but I'm a rabbit farmer. And when rabbits don't open their eyes on time, they're supposed to open their eyes on like day 10. If their eyes aren't open by day 12, they have nest eye. There's a problem, and you have to help them get that eye open. And so Mickey the Beholder, he just was born with some problems. This could happen to any species, real world or fantasy world. His eyes never opened. And so he was cast out, in his early beholder origins, and he became the laughing stock of a dungeon. So a beholder, which is normally this feared, revered, legendary, uber monster that everybody's afraid of. In the dungeon with the other monsters, they treated Mickey like a joke. They didn't even have a name yet, so he wasn't. I'm calling him Mickey, but he didn't have that name yet. They just beat him up. They pushed him around because his eyes weren't even open. So here's this fearsome thing that could turn you to stone or disintegrate you or just hit you with a death ray, and or it has this huge fanged mouth if it could just see you to bite on you. But eyes wouldn't open. His eyes had all the powers, they just wouldn't open. And so finally, back in the day in the 80s, when the party found Mickey the Beholder, Mickey the Beholder actually said, "Please don't hurt me. Everybody hurts me." And so instead of being murder hobos or just killing him and go, "Hey, XP, we're gonna get XP for a beholder. Wow, and it can't even shoot back." No, the party actually took him back to the Principalities of Galantry, which is, and there's multiple entries for Galantry now. There'll probably be more. Big part of the campaign is based there in our Obsidian portal. I'll link to our Obsidian portal down below in the doodly-doo. But the mages in Galantry actually helped him open his eyes. I mean, obviously with lots of precautions. Just like as a rabbit farmer, I would help a young baby rabbit open its eyes if it had nest eye. And they were all mages. They were all interested in magical theories and power and magic and the secrets of the multiverse and stuff like that. And beholders are super geniuses and everything, and they helped him. And so they actually befriended a beholder in a unique backstory type situation. And in Galantry, I don't know if I have an entry for that yet. I might need to put that. In Galantry, in the 80s, way before J.K. Rowling wrote about Harry Potter, there's a school for kids, and they have child mages in Galantry. And I think you can read about that later. We're going on too long with this about Mickey the Beholder. But Mickey the Beholder used to like to be the merry-go-round. He used to actually let kids hang on his eye tentacles because they were strong enough. It didn't hurt him. And he would turn around, spin around, whee, and be the merry-go-round. Faster, Mickey, faster. Now, how did he get called Mickey the Beholder? Well, back in the 80s, in Dragon Magazine, there were articles. There was a regular article in Dragon Magazine where Elminster, who was Ed Greenwood's character, the Ed Greenwood who the Forgotten Realms was originally his campaign world, and he sold it to the D&D company, and the company that owned D&D at the time wasn't Wizards of the Coast, it was TSR. And this was before the world became so computerized. So when he sold the Forgotten Realms to TSR, it wasn't in the form of computer files or anything like that. It wasn't a hard drive or any. It was a filing cabinet. the actual format of the Forgotten Realms when it was sold from being a personal campaign world to the D&D company was a filing cabinet at the time in the 80s. But Ed Greenwood, he had these articles in Dragon Magazine where his character Elminster would come visit him in the real world. And he would have these conversations between himself, the real Ed Greenwood, and Elminster, his character. And Elminster would come talk about... Elminster learned how to like pancakes and coffee and all these things that he got exposed to from real-life Earth and everything. So real-life Earth has existed in a few classic D&D adventures and stuff. And some of the mages of Galantry found it. And one day, they brought back for Mickey the Beholder, Mickey Mouse ears. And so Mickey the Beholder actually wore Mickey Mouse ears. And he still wears them to this day in my campaign. And because beholders live a long time, he's still there. He still loves kids. And as his beholder knowledge expands and his great super genius intellect expands, he just keeps learning more and more and more there at the Great School of Magic. He's kind of like a professional student. He probably has multiple degrees in magic theory from the Great School of Magic. And if you were at our campaign and your student was at the Great School of Magic, you might look up from your desk and see in the back of the room there's a beholder using his telekinesis eye to take notes. But anyway, so Mickey the Beholder has a unique story NPCs don't know they're NPCs. NPCs have stories, backstories, just like your player characters have stories. And so that's the story, once upon a time, of Mickey the Beholder. So the person who criticized me online for going against the lore can stuff it, because I'm the dungeon master, and the lore for beholders at my table is what I say it is. Ooh, that was my grumpy old GM rant for the day. So, down below, there's Discord to say hello. I'll put our Obsidian portal where you can, read about Glantry stuff, the Magicracy, government by the mages, of the mages, for the mages. There's our Patreon where you can actually get, personal online coaching, and from me and other grumpy old GMs. And in the meantime, I'll see you around the game table.